I had a pretty normal childhood until I was about 15. My stepfather and my mother got divorced. It wasn't the prettiest thing. I was sent to live with my father overnight in Roanoke. I'd grown up in Greensboro. My brother and sister went with my stepfather. So my family was kind of torn apart, and I was in a new school, new area. I was mad. So I started rebelling, smoking weed, drinking. I played football, and, there'd be Friday night parties after the football game. I really got into that kind of scene and crowd, and kind of to feel acceptance, I guess, make friends quick. That quickly spiraled. I ended up getting kicked off the football team, so I dropped out of school, put my dad through hell. I hadn't been there. It was every other weekend thing. And then he gets me at 15 crazy. He's finding drugs, and I'm coming home and stealing stuff, and it was kind of bad. I started working in restaurants after that, after I dropped out, and the restaurant business is full of drugs and alcohol. So I quickly kept that going and worked in the kitchen through most of my 20s. My dad passed away when I was 21. That kind of sent me off the deep end. He passed away in my arms. I was there. I kind of tried to revive, called 911, and they wheeled him out on the stretcher. And so that just sent me even worse. The way I dealt with everything was using drugs and alcohol and getting in trouble. That kind of continued my whole young life. Through my 20s, I worked in bars. I'd work for a couple years until I couldn't show up to work a couple times, missed a shift, and eventually they'd fire me. And I kind of switched gears, got in some different careers to get away from that, tried a geographical change, nothing worked. Everywhere I'd go, I'd get into that scene. When I was 38, I got sober, and I got things back pretty quick. I grew up in the church. I believed in God. I was kind of a doubter, believed. When I got sober, it wasn't really God-centered. I went to an outpatient, and I was more what they call a dry drunk. I kind of white-knuckled it, but I did get a lot back quick. I got a good job, but I kind of fell off that. I made it about 20 months. I met my wife, who's now my wife. She wasn't then, but I started drinking again at first, and it slowly spiraled. I started using drugs again. Eventually lost the good job, got another good job, lost it. I managed to get married in this, and we have a 2.5-year-old son. I have a 16-year-old stepson, but I made my wife and stepson lie to my family because they thought I was still sober, put them through hell, put my whole family through a lot that they didn't deserve. Got another good job, lost that as well. I'd been in trouble in my 30s, but I hadn't been in trouble in years. I'd done a 30-day program and an outpatient program, made it about 6 months. Again, just kind of doing it for the wrong reasons, doing it for my wife, doing it to stay out of trouble, doing it for other people, doing it to keep a job. But there was no purpose. There was nothing behind it, nowhere to give all the stress. Nothing to do with all that. And so eventually it would boil over and I would drink and use again. I was actually working. Got so bad where I was drinking at work. I would be hungover from the day before. I would drink in the morning. I would use cocaine to keep going. And it was just a bad cycle. I would go home and use cocaine to be able to function, take care of the baby, take care of my family. I was working in Lynchburg and started drinking on the job, and on the way home, I got a DUI in my work truck, got arrested, and ended up in Roanoke City Jail. My wife knew the Parsons family from my stepson when he was younger, went to school with their son. I'd heard of the Eagles Nest. She had tried to get me to go there the first time when I did a 30-day program, and I found out it was 8 months, so I chose the 30-day program. But this time, she was like, you go there or you don't come home, and I'm not going to bond you out. I got bonded straight to here. I came here kind of kicking and screaming, but it's worked out. It's changed my life. What did I get myself into? I came on a Thursday, and at first everybody was really nice. They gave me some food and told me they loved me when they just met me, and tell my wife and kids I love them, but I'm not a big hug and love you type person. Wasn't. So, that was new. And then the first night we had our small groups, and I went in there and I sat down, and he's like, well, what's the Lord telling you? What's the Lord talking to you? I was like, he speaks to you? You audibly? I didn't know what I'd got into. It grew on me pretty quick. It took a little while to adjust. You could definitely feel the love immediately, that, it was genuine and people really cared. Leaving my family. The hardest part was being away from at the time, my son was 18 months old. My stepson was 15. He was struggling in school, so I kind of left him in a bind. In the beginning, I came from jail. I had no contact with them. I talked to my wife long enough for her to bring me here, so the hardest part was, leaving them. But it was kind of necessary, I think, for everyone to heal, from what I had done and what I'd been doing, especially with my stepson. There's a lot of trauma there. I put him through a lot. I feel really bad about that. My son, my 18-month-old son, I'd wanted a child my whole life. I didn't think it was in the cards for me. I got married late and had him at 44. And so I got here, was in jail. I thought I'd blown it. I thought, if I waited this whole my life, I got it together just to drop it, which has kind of been the story of my life. Is as soon as things start going well, I just blow it up. I self-sabotage and the drugs and alcohol take over. So I thought, here we go again. Back in rehab, going to go back to jail because it was my fourth DUI, which is a felony. It carries a year mandatory. So just figured I'd lost it all, just like I lost everything else in my life. That feeling of guilt, condemnation, and shame that I had on me when I first got here and not seeing my family. It was kind of a combination, they do things in the right order. I needed to be told what I was told in regen and realize that I could justify, rationalize. I could manipulate myself. I was so good. I manipulated everyone around me. I could rationalize things in my own head to make it make sense. And so and then learning that I did all that and being able to spot that has helped me tremendously in all aspects of my life. And then getting into inner healing and not having those attitudes blocking the way and being able to go back to some of the trauma in my youth and stuff and being led through prayer. The first time I did it, I thought it was crazy. They're like, do you see Jesus? And I had a vivid one in inner healing when I could see I was there the day my father passed away, and I could see everything, stuff I haven't seen. I remembered that room just like I was there, and it gives me chills now thinking about it and being led through some of that and truly dealing with some of that and going back to those places, learning about myself, and then being able to go back and deal with some things that I've never dealt with in 30 years. And then, of course, journaling too, journaling, taking it to the journal after that. Those three things really have changed my life, and being able to kind of carry them through. I still try to go back. I was led through a prayer in stage 2 just last week. So being able to go back to those places, just taking it to the Lord and having somewhere, like I said earlier, where it all builds up, having somewhere to put it now, someone to help me with that, has really changed my life. Family recovery is tough. Having to face what I did to my family was tough. Like Robbie likes to say, when you start family recovery, you're the dump, she's the dump truck. Having to hear that in a group setting and her saying all the things I did and people looking at me like, you did that? That was embarrassing, but it needed to be done. And that's the thing, that family recovery here is, anywhere else I'd been or anywhere else I tried to get help, the wife's just on the sidelines. And having somewhere where she can come and get help, she's on a thread with other wives, she gets help here. That was huge in our marriage, and her being able to forgive me and me being able to forgive her and us to move on. But it's great. It's tough but it's been really good. The people in there really care, and hard to hear some of the stuff, but it's been really good. Family recovery has really helped me and my wife by it's taught me to listen more, to the power of the pause, to take 5 seconds and think before you speak and realize where she's coming from, where other people's coming from. I was really self-centered. I've been self-centered my whole life, and most addicts are, but being able to kind of hear what she's actually saying and what I put her through and be able to work through it and take things to the Lord and pray about it. We go knee to knee, eye to eye, and pray for each other at the beginning of every family recovery. So family recovery definitely taught me how to be a better husband, how to listen to what my wife has to say, how to communicate better. We would both tend to get elevated and not communicate the best. Family recovery definitely taught me how to be a better husband, has improved our relationship, and work and class at the Eagles Nest has definitely made me a better father and more understanding of everyone. One of the biggest things I've got at Eagles Nest is a sense of peace. Finally being able to surrender to something and not always feel like I'm operating out of a deficit, like I've got to catch up because all the years I've wasted, that God loves me no matter what, the serenity and the peace that I still get it sometimes. I still like, I need this, I need that. But just knowing that God's love is enough and that I have a purpose, and that if I surrender to him, that so far he hasn't let me down and everything's going to be all right. Just having that sense of peace is huge. Like anxiety wise, like I don't take anxiety medication or anything anymore. Just having the biggest thing I have is a sense of peace, and it trickles down into every aspect of my life. I'm not quick to anger as I used to be. I mean, still happens sometimes, but it's just every aspect of my life has changed since the Eagles Nest brought me closer to God. Frankly, because if you're trying to get sober, 30 or 45 days isn't enough. Your brain's in a fog the first 30 days. But Eagles Nest, they do more. It doesn't just teach you about sobriety and about recovery. I mean, we work the 12 steps in their own way, but it's also teaches you how to be a man, how to be a better person. It brings you closer to God. They work you back into, you can transition, you can stay on if they need you to. You get to start to go home. It's just it's an all around great program that really, I can't describe it really. There's nothing really like it that I've been through. And I've been to jail, I've been to rehab, I've been to outpatient, I've done it all. But what they do here, it's hard, but it's really worth it when you come out on the other side. I'm very grateful for everything I've gotten here, and I'm very grateful for the relationships I have back in my life. I had everything, but I didn't think it was enough. I had a wife that loved me, a stepson. He's my son. I say stepson, but who loved me and looked up to me, and a new son. And it wasn't enough for some reason. And now through what I learned at Eagles Nest, I had it all and almost lost it all. And I'm forever grateful for what the Eagles Nest has done for me in my life and for my family.